Hold up, because this story just took a sharp left, and fans are realizing this wasn't a soft breakup. It was a clean cut. Teyana Taylor is being linked to a man with serious money, serious privacy, and a lifestyle that doesn't do internet mess. And suddenly the pieces around her split from Pierre are starting to make a lot more sense. For months, people assumed the distance between Teyana Taylor and Pierre was temporary. Scheduling, pressure, two careers moving fast at the same time. But now insiders and online observers are saying this wasn't a pause. It was an exit. And not just from a relationship, but from a chapter she was never planning to revisit. Here's where it gets interesting. According to circulating chatter, Teyana Taylor is now reportedly involved with a man whose wealth isn't loud, whose name doesn't trend, and whose circle doesn't leak. Not an entertainer, not a headline chaser. Allegedly a billionaire. Or at the very least, someone operating at a financial level that changes how power, privacy, and control work entirely. And once that kind of man enters the picture, priorities shift. Fans are asking the obvious question, why now? Why so quietly? And why does it feel so final? Because unlike her previous relationship, this one isn't being marketed. No red carpets, no soft launches, no aesthetic breadcrumbs. Just distance from the old narrative. And a noticeable upgrade in how guarded Teyana Taylor has become. The woman who once shared freely is now moving like someone who understands leverage. And that's where Pierre re-enters the conversation. Our people close to the situation claim Teyana Taylor didn't just grow apart from him. She outgrew the situation entirely. Different ambitions, different circles, different expectations. While Pierre was rising in Hollywood visibility, she was reportedly shifting toward ownership, legacy, and insulation from industry chaos. And those paths don't always run parallel. What's fueling speculation is how clean the break appears. No public statements, no lingering interactions, no "we're still cool" energy, just separation. And in celebrity culture, silence like that usually signals one thing, a decision that doesn't need explaining. Then came the whispers about money. Not flashy money, quiet money. The kind that doesn't post watches or cars but moves through acquisitions, private jets, and NDAs. The fans noticed subtle changes, fewer appearances, tighter circles, and a general pullback from anything that felt performative. To many, it looks like Teyana Taylor chose peace over publicity and power over passion. That's why people are now revisiting the breakup with Pierre through a different lens. Not heartbreak, strategy. Because when someone steps into a relationship with a man who can rewrite your environment overnight, you don't look back. You don't triangulate. You don't keep one foot in the past. You close the door. And allegedly, that's exactly what happened. If this new relationship is what people think it is, it explains why Teyana Taylor didn't drag the breakup, didn't shade, didn't clarify. She didn't need to. Her next move did all the talking. So the real question isn't who is the billionaire. It's what did Teyana Taylor see that made her walk away for good? Because whatever it was, she didn't hesitate. And when a woman like Teyana Taylor moves in silence, it's usually because she's already 10 steps ahead. What made this situation feel different to fans wasn't just the rumor of a new relationship. It was the shift. A noticeable change in how Teyana Taylor has been moving since the split from Pierre. According to online observers, this wasn't a rebound, a distraction, or a soft launch. It looked intentional, strategic, final. People close to the conversation say the new man in Teyana Taylor's life operates in a completely different world. Not entertainment, not social media, not public validation. Allegedly someone with extreme wealth and even more extreme privacy. The kind of person whose lifestyle doesn't overlap with gossip cycles or trending narratives. And that alone changes everything. Because when money reaches a certain level, relationships stop being performative. They become insulated. Fans began noticing subtle but consistent changes. Fewer public appearances, less online commentary, No cryptic posts, no subliminals, no need to shape a narrative. It felt like someone who had already made a decision and didn't need the internet to approve it. And in celebrity culture, that kind of silence usually signals leverage. This is where the power shift becomes important. With Pierre, the relationship appeared to exist closer to the spotlight. Two rising public figures, two careers moving fast, two images being shaped in real time. Even without drama, that dynamic comes with pressure. Her scheduling conflicts, public perception, industry politics, and according to fan speculation, those pressures eventually exposed differences in direction. Sources suggest Teyana Taylor wasn't looking to stay in motion, she was looking to land. Ownership, long-term security, control over her environment. While Pierre was reportedly stepping deeper into Hollywood visibility, she was allegedly stepping away from it. Those paths don't always break loudly, but they do break cleanly. That's what made the breakup feel permanent. No "we're still cool" messaging. No lingering public support. No gradual fade. Just distance. And then came the rumors of wealth. Not flashy wealth. Quiet wealth. The kind that doesn't announce itself but changes how you move once it enters your life. And fans pointed out that when someone has access to private planes, private compounds and private security, public chaos becomes optional. And Teyana Taylor appeared to opt out. Online commentators began reframing the breakup not as heartbreak, but as alignment. The idea that she didn't leave Pierre because of conflict, she left because she saw a future that didn't include compromise in areas she had outgrown. And once someone sees that future clearly, backtracking isn't part of the plan. What stood out most to viewers was the lack of overlap. No sightings, no rumoured reconnects, no mixed signals. In past celebrity splits, there's usually at least some emotional residue visible. Here, there was none. To many, that suggested something decisive happened behind the scenes. A realization, an offer, or a shift in priorities that closed the door completely. And this is where the billionaire rumor carries weight, even without confirmation. Because when a relationship introduces stability at scale, it reframes everything that came before it. What once felt exciting may now feel chaotic. What once felt passionate may now feel limiting. And what once felt good enough may no longer fit the life you're building. That's why fans aren't just asking who is the new man. They're asking what does he represent? To many, he represents privacy over publicity, power over performance, and a future where Teyana Taylor doesn't need to explain her choices, because her lifestyle explains them for her. If that's true, then the breakup with Pierre wasn't emotional. It was evolutionary. And once evolution happens, there's no going back. What finally convinced fans this breakup was permanent wasn't a statement or a leak. It was behavior. According to people watching closely, Teyana Taylor didn't move like someone processing heartbreak. She moved like someone who had already closed the door and thrown away the key. And in celebrity culture, that distinction matters. When relationships end abruptly but emotionally, you usually see residue. Sad posts, cryptic captions, mutual engagement, lingering public warmth. None of that happened here. Instead, Teyana Taylor went quiet in a way that felt deliberate, not wounded. Fans interpreted that silence as clarity, the kind that comes after a final decision, not during confusion. This is where speculation around Pierre intensified. Observers believe the issue wasn't betrayal or drama, but misalignment. On different visions, different timelines, different definitions of power. While Pierre appeared to be stepping deeper into the Hollywood machine, auditions, premieres, visibility, Teyana Taylor was reportedly stepping out of it. Insiders and online commentators suggest that she had reached a point where she no longer wanted to negotiate her environment. After years of navigating industry politics, public scrutiny, and emotional labor, the appeal of privacy and control reportedly outweighed the excitement of shared spotlight. And that's not a knock on Pierre. It's a reflection of where she was headed. fans began pointing out subtle clues that suggested something shifted long before the public noticed. Fewer joint mentions, less emotional language, a tightening of her circle. To many, it felt like she had already detached internally before the relationship ended externally. And when that happens, reconciliation usually isn't on the table. This is where the rumored new relationship becomes significant, not because of who the man is, but because of what he represents. According to circulating chatter, the new partner in Teyana Taylor's life doesn't exist in public narrative space. No interviews, no image crafting, no expectation to perform relationship optics. That alone changes the emotional equation. When someone offers insulation instead of exposure, it can make previous relationships feel exhausting in hindsight. Commentators believe that once Teyana Taylor experienced that contrast, the decision became irreversible. It wasn't about choosing one man over another. It was about choosing a lifestyle that aligned with where she's going, not where she's been. What made the split feel especially final was the absence of triangulation. No comparisons, no back and forth, no emotional overlap. She didn't need to publicly defend her choice or justify the end. To many, that suggested she didn't see the breakup as a loss. She saw it as a transition. Fans also noted how decisively Pierre disappeared from her orbit. No friendly appearances, no rumored check-ins, no right person, wrong time narrative, just separation. In the world of celebrity relationships, that level of detachment usually signals one thing: the emotional conversation already happened in private. Another factor fueling the no-turning-back theory is timing. The rumored billionaire connection didn't surface during the breakup chaos. It surfaced after the dust settled. That implies intention. It suggests Teyana Taylor didn't jump ship impulsively. She stepped forward once her path was clear. People online have framed this as a power move, not in a manipulative sense, but in a self-preserving one, choosing privacy over performance, choosing alignment over attraction, choosing stability over potential. And once those choices are made consciously, there's no incentive to revisit the past. That's why fans aren't expecting reconciliation, not because it's impossible, but because it doesn't fit the trajectory. Teyana Taylor appears to be building a life where she doesn't have to explain herself, compromise her boundaries, or manage public narratives around love. If that's true, then the breakup with Pierre wasn't unfinished business, it was closure. And when closure comes from clarity instead of conflict, it doesn't reopen. This is where the story stops being about romance and starts being about environment. Because the moment fans began hearing whispers that Teyana Taylor may be involved with a man operating at an entirely different financial level, the breakup with Pierre suddenly looked less emotional and far more strategic. According to online chatter, this alleged new partner doesn't move like a celebrity. No interviews, no paparazzi strolls, no social media breadcrumbs, just influence, discretion, and resources that quietly reshape the lives of people around him. And when someone steps into a world like that, priorities change almost overnight. Our fans pointed out something important. Wealth at that scale isn't about luxury. It's about control. Control over time, control over space, control over exposure. And for someone like Teyana Taylor, who has spent years being visible, analysed, and consumed by the public, that shift can feel like freedom. Observers say this is why her energy looks different now. Less reactive, less performative, less concerned with being understood. She's no longer shaping narratives, she's avoiding them altogether. And that behaviour lines up with someone who no longer needs validation from the internet or the industry. The billionaire factor also reframes the breakup timeline. Instead of seeing the split from Pierre as sudden, fans now believe it was inevitable. Two people can care about each other deeply and still be headed in opposite directions. One path leads deeper into Hollywood systems, auditions, premieres, and public image management. The other leads toward ownership, privacy, and insulation from chaos. Once those paths diverge, love alone doesn't bridge the gap. Commentators have emphasized that this isn't about trading up in a shallow sense. It's about compatibility at scale. A relationship with someone whose life requires discretion forces boundaries that public figures aren't always used to respecting. No oversharing, no emotional posting, no public processing. And Teyana Taylor appears to be honoring that shift completely. Fans also noticed what isn't happening. No vague heartbreak quotes, no nostalgic throwbacks, no interviews hinting at unresolved feelings. That absence is telling. In celebrity culture, unresolved breakups leak. This one didn't. And another reason this relationship changes everything is leverage. When someone has access to extreme wealth, the stakes of public mess rise sharply. Chaos becomes a liability. Drama becomes expensive. And people around that level of power expect stability, not spectacle. To many viewers, Teyana Taylor seems to be adjusting seamlessly to that expectation. This is why fans believe the door with Pierre is permanently closed. Not because of conflict, but because reopening it wouldn't fit the life she's building now. Once someone recalibrates their environment, they rarely step backward into noise. The Billionaire rumor also explains her silence. When you're connected to someone who values privacy above all else, public clarification becomes unnecessary and even discouraged. The less said, the safer the space. And Teyana Taylor has clearly chosen discretion over explanation. What's most striking is how intentional everything feels. No overlapping stories, no triangulation, no public emotional residue, just distance and momentum forward. Fans aren't reading confusion here, they're reading certainty. And certainty is powerful. If this relationship is what people believe it is, it marks a turning point in Teyana Taylor's life. A shift away from being consumed as entertainment and toward being protected as an individual. That doesn't mean her career is over. It means it's being reshaped on her terms. That's why the internet isn't expecting mess. They're expecting permanence, because relationships built on privacy, power, and aligned values don't announce themselves loudly. They reveal themselves slowly, through changed behavior, tightened circles, and a complete lack of need to explain. And once someone experiences that level of stability, there's no incentive to revisit a chapter that required constant negotiation. For many fans, this isn't just a new relationship. It's an exit from a lifestyle she no longer wants. At this stage, fans aren't asking if Teyana Taylor is done with Pierre. They're asking why it feels so permanent, because celebrity breakups usually leave footprints, mixed signals, public overlap, emotional residue. This one didn't, and that absence has become the loudest clue of all. According to online observers, Pierre wasn't left behind because of scandal, betrayal, or public conflict. He was left behind because the relationship no longer fit the direction Teyana Taylor was moving in. That distinction matters. When breakups happen quietly and decisively, it often means the emotional conversation already happened behind closed doors. Fans began re-examining the relationship timeline and noticed something subtle but important. Teyana Taylor appeared to emotionally detach before the breakup became public. Her energy shifted, her language softened, her focus narrowed. To many, it looked like she was already preparing for a different chapter while still technically in the old one. This is where misalignment becomes unavoidable. While Pierre was reportedly stepping deeper into visibility, auditions, rising roles, industry networking, Teyana Taylor was pulling away from that ecosystem entirely. Ownership over exposure, control over chaos, privacy over promotion. Those are not small differences, they're foundational. Fans believe once she reached that realization, there was no incentive to negotiate. Relationships don't survive when one person wants insulation and the other's career requires access. And in that scenario, love alone isn't enough to bridge the gap. What made the finality undeniable was behavior after the split. No friendly public appearances, no right person, wrong time framing. No gradual distancing, just separation. In celebrity culture, that kind of clean break usually means boundaries were set firmly and respected. Pierre didn't linger publicly. He didn't push narratives. He didn't insert himself into her story. That restraint suggests the decision wasn't ambiguous. Fans also noted that Teyana Taylor didn't revisit the relationship emotionally. No nostalgia. No we'll always care about each other messaging. Nothing that would invite speculation or hope. To many, that reads as someone protecting their future rather than processing the past. This is where the rumored billionaire relationship reinforces the finality. Once someone steps into an environment that prioritizes discretion and control, reopening old chapters becomes unnecessary and risky. People at that level don't want overlapping stories, emotional mess, or public ambiguity. And Teyana Taylor appears to be moving in a way that aligns perfectly with those expectations. The internet also picked up on another factor: peace. Observers have commented that she looks lighter, less reactive, less concerned with proving anything. That kind of shift doesn't come from winning a breakup. It comes from alignment, from choosing a life that doesn't require constant explanation. That's why fans don't expect reconciliation, not because Pierre lacks value, but because he represents a chapter she's already closed. Returning would mean stepping back into a world she intentionally exited. And people rarely do that once they've tasted stability. Another reason the finality feels real is the lack of triangulation. Teyana Taylor didn't use her new relationship to shade the old one. She didn't compare, she didn't posture, she simply moved forward. That behavior suggests confidence, not reaction. In contrast, when breakups are unresolved, people tend to hover. They check in, they respond indirectly, they leave doors cracked. None of that is happening here. Fans have interpreted this as the clearest sign yet that Pierre wasn't dumped in a dramatic sense. He was released. From a life path that no longer fit. From a future that had already been reimagined without him. And once a woman like Teyana Taylor commits to a new direction, she doesn't circle back to explain it. She lets the distance speak. What's surprising about this entire situation isn't the breakup itself. It's the reaction to it. Normally, when a celebrity relationship ends abruptly, especially one the public was invested in, fans split into sides. Accusations fly. Narratives get ugly. But in this case, the response toward Teyana Taylor has been noticeably calm, even supportive. Instead of outrage, many fans expressed understanding. Online commentary has largely framed her decision as growth rather than abandonment. Viewers aren't reading this as someone chasing money or status. They're reading it as someone choosing alignment. The dominant sentiment isn't "how could she?" It's "that makes sense." And that reaction says a lot. Fans who've followed Teyana Taylor for years point out that she's been vocal about evolution, boundaries, and self-definition. From her creative independence to stepping away from music when it no longer served her, she's shown a pattern of leaving chapters behind, without apology. This breakup appears to fit that same pattern. That's why there hasn't been much backlash. Instead of defending herself, Teyana Taylor let her behavior speak. No interviews, no clarifications, no narrative management. That restraint resonated with audiences who are increasingly exhausted by oversharing and public processing. In an era where everyone explains everything, silence reads as confidence. Our fans also noticed how intentionally she avoided humiliation or triangulation. She didn't weaponize her new relationship. She didn't compare. She didn't leak. She didn't shade Pierre or invite commentary about who won. That maturity changed the tone entirely, because when someone exits quietly, people assume the decision was thoughtful. Another reason fans aren't mad is context. Teyana Taylor is no longer at a stage where experimentation defines her identity. She's a mother, a creator, a businesswoman, and someone increasingly focused on long-term legacy. Many viewers believe she reached a point where emotional compatibility mattered less than lifestyle compatibility. And that's not something fans tend to argue with. The rumoured billionaire relationship, while unconfirmed, more also hasn't sparked the jealousy or cynicism people might expect. Instead, it's been framed as symbolic. Not of money, but of insulation, privacy, stability, control over environment. Fans see it less as an upgrade and more as a boundary. And that perception matters. Comment sections reflect a recurring theme. She chose peace. That phrase comes up again and again. Whether accurate or not, it captures how the public interprets her shift. People believe she stepped away from situations that required explanation and into one that doesn't. This is also why Pierre hasn't become a villain in the narrative. Fans aren't dragging him. They're not accusing him of failure or wrongdoing. Most commentary frames him as simply incompatible with where Teyana Taylor is headed. And that neutrality reinforces the idea that this breakup wasn't about blame. It was about direction. Another layer of public reaction is relief. Many fans admitted they felt anxious watching her navigate public relationships in recent years. The scrutiny, the speculation, the emotional labor. Seeing her move into privacy feels reassuring, like someone stepping off a stage they no longer needed to perform on. This moment also marks a broader shift in how audiences respond to celebrity evolution. People are more accepting of quiet exits, more appreciative of boundaries, less demanding of explanations. Teyana Taylor's approach aligns perfectly with that cultural change. What this says about her evolution is simple. She's no longer optimizing for applause. She's optimizing for alignment. She didn't ask permission. She didn't seek validation. She didn't explain her way out. She just moved. And in doing so, she reshaped the narrative without ever addressing it directly. That's why fans aren't mad. They see intention, they see clarity, and they see someone who understands that not every chapter needs a public ending to be complete. For many, this isn't just a breakup story. It's a case study in how to leave something behind without burning it down, and how to step into the next phase of life without announcing it. When all the noise fades, the rumors cool down, and the comment sections move on to the next headline, what remains is something much quieter and much clearer. This situation isn't really about who Teyana Taylor is dating now or who she dated before. It's about the moment someone outgrows the version of life the public expects them to live. That's the part many people miss. For years, Teyana Taylor has been evolving in ways that don't always translate cleanly to headlines. She stepped away from music at her peak. She redefined success on her own terms. She chose creative control over constant visibility. And now, she appears to be doing the same thing with her personal life. This chapter closing doesn't feel emotional. It feels intentional. That's why the breakup with Pierre hasn't turned into a spectacle. No messy back and forth, no public processing, no tell my side tour. Just distance. And distance, in this context, is the clearest message possible. What we're witnessing is someone protecting the next version of themselves. Fans who understand growth recognize this pattern immediately. When people are still figuring things out, they explain everything. When they've figured it out, they move in silence. Teyana Taylor isn't debating her choices publicly because she doesn't need consensus. She's already made peace with the direction she's heading. And that's the real shift. The rumored billionaire relationship isn't important because of money. It's important because it represents a lifestyle that doesn't require constant defense. A life where privacy is default, not a privilege. Whether that relationship lasts or not almost doesn't matter. What matters is the standard it reflects. No chaos, no overlap, no confusion, just alignment. That's also why fans aren't clinging to the past. They can feel the finality. This doesn't look like a pause or a break. It looks like a door that closed gently but firmly. And when doors close that way, they're rarely reopened. It's also worth noting how rare this kind of ending is in celebrity culture. Most people burn bridges loudly. They leave damage behind. they rewrite history. Teyana Taylor didn't do any of that. She let the relationship end without erasing it, without weaponizing it, and without using it to build sympathy. That restraint has reshaped the narrative more powerfully than any interview ever could. So if you're wondering why this story feels different, that's why. This isn't a woman chasing a new life. It's a woman stepping fully into one she's already built. And that's why there's no real debate about whether she'll look back. People don't look back when they've arrived somewhere that finally feels like home. Now, here's where the audience comes in. Do you see this as growth or avoidance? Do you think Teyana Taylor is protecting her peace or running from something unfinished? And do you believe this quiet, billionaire-adjacent lifestyle is a permanent shift or just another chapter in her evolution? Drop your honest thoughts in the comments. This conversation isn't about picking sides. It's about reading patterns, and everyone sees them differently. If you made it this far, hit like. It tells the algorithm you want deeper breakdowns, not surface-level gossip. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because stories like this don't end loudly. They resurface subtly, when no one's expecting it. And remember, the loudest move Teyana Taylor made here was choosing not to explain herself. Sometimes, silence isn't mysterious, it's decisive.